Okay, so this was your doubt. Does it clear your doubt now,
Yeah,
Matthew?
sir, it clears my doubt now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if they say you prehistoric cave art according to NCRT, it goes as back as 18,000 years ago. And for agriculture, now how do we find that agriculture was happening? How do you? What is important to do agriculture? To do agriculture, you have to clean a patch. You have to clean a forest patch and make it. You have to plow it, sow seeds, right? So if on a
Yes.
land there was agriculture done, and now it has like a forest or something, but when you will dig down, you will not find fossils of big trees or something on that land. It's obvious, right? Because probably 5,000 years ago it was agricultural land, then no one touched it and it became a natural jungle on its own. But if it was always a jungle, you will find some fossils, some kind of plant, animal specimens. But if it was a field which was plowed for quite a significant time, then the kind of macro structure of that the rock composition. Because when you do agriculture, you remove all the big rocks. Like, have you seen farmers plowing the field? They make
Yes.
it even. It's soil, no big rocks,
Yes,
no
sir.
animals, no big plants, right? So that's how we. So the similar way civilizations are found. When you dig deep and you find that, oh, there is a structure, there are boundary walls made, which means it must have been a city or something. So Indus Valley civilization or the Harappan civilization or even the Taxila civilization, in which was the earliest around Bihar, the Patliputra, all these civilizations were found like that after digging. Okay, so quickly going to, so this, anyone has any other doubt with human evolution, the timeline, anything? No? Okay, so let me quickly come to evolution of horse. So this will be a good example to study non-primate. So human is a primate, horse is a non-primate, right? Let me make it shorter. Can you all see this figure now correctly?
Yeah, sir, up to an extent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, just a little more. Evolution of horse. Great. So someone has a question. Good evening, Kulsum. How are you? Okay, you cannot speak, right? Okay, cool. No issues. So we were just starting. Okay, now I told you, like, horse is a very good system to understand how the hoofs evolved. Okay, now I'm not sure if you know about this, but hoofs were not present right from the beginning. By hoof, what I mean, have you seen cows, buffaloes, and horses up close in real? So if you look at their feet, they have these things. These are hoof, right? That's what,
Yes.
you know. And what is a hoof basically? Hoof of a horse. Just like we have toenails, they
Yeah,
have
it's like
hooves.
nails, right, for them. You have
Yes,
to
it's
cut
like
them
nails.
something.
Yes, it's like the kind, just similarly, we can cut our nails. Their hoofs can be, cut and put in shape. And because it is split in the middle, so there are two hoofs like this. Okay, and I'm making. Can you see this? So it's two hoofs in the split from the middle. So you see that horses are put this horseshoe, this kind of a metal, right, on the hoof
Yeah.
here. You know why do they do that for horses?
So that the
Good.
hooves don't break.
Don't split, because horses are used to carry weights, right, or to
Yeah.
run faster or things like that. So the hoofs might split under the weight. So to avoid that and to keep the hoofs together, and also if they split, they might break, and also they might cause damage to the foot itself. So we put this horseshoe. Okay, but you will see that at regular intervals they take it off and scrape the hoof, like cut some part of it, then put it back. Because this is a proof that hoofs keep growing, just like our nails do. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
So it's keratinized. It's not a living tissue, hoof, so it can be cut like nails. Interesting thing is, you know about rhinoceros? What is the horn of rhinos actually? Many people don't know. What is the origin? What kind of tissue is the horn of a rhinoceros? Like this.
Would
You
be
see
made of
this, right?
calcium, right?
Would be like,
It would be like hard, like bone, right?
it's not bone.
I said
If
hard
if
like
if it,
bone.
yes, it is hard, of course. It's a, but if it was bone, then if you would cut it, there would be bone marrow inside, right? Because it's quite a big thing. Rhinoceros are poached for their horns, and I think the white northern white rhinoceros, just the last male died last year, I think. So this actually will be very fascinating to know that this is developed from a hair follicle. The origin is a hair follicle. So it's a very tough hair in one sense, if you look at it. Interesting, right?
How
Yeah.
does it develop from a hair follicle?
So it is a hair. It is like, if you go into a tissue structure, it is not a bone. It is also not a horn. Like antelopes have horn, right? Like this. You seen the horns? Or these kind of horns? It's not this. It actually develops from a hair follicle. You know what is our hair? Imagine a human hair. What is a human hair? This,
Keratin.
yes, exactly. And it has a living part here, right? Which is under the scalp.
Yeah.
So just imagine this human hair, which is thin and very flexible, like getting thick and thick and thick and thick, lots of keratin and getting solidified. Because it's a non-living tissue, right? Keratin once solidified, like keratin is not living outside the epidermis, right?
Yes, sir.
So this is kind of a rhinoceros horn. Interesting, right?
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
Difficult to believe.
Difficult to believe. Many things are difficult to believe in biology, but they are. Okay, so for horse, the ancestors, so it's called Eohippus. The current horse, the scientific name is Equus, EQWS, Equus, and it comes from this Hyracotherium. The ancestors, the earliest ancestors were Hyracotherium, which belongs to Eohippus. Then this is the family tree again. You will see divergence. So it goes like this, then it diverges into one branch and the other branch. Okay, this branch got extinct. So Orohippus continued, became Epihippus, Mesohippus, Parahippus, and finally it reaches to Equus, which is the modern horse. Okay, but can you see this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all these different branches?
Yeah.
What does it mean? What does it mean? And it all starts after the Miocene. Like if you see in millions of years, much before human, Homo sapien came, but around the time when Ramapithecus were there, right? 15 million years ago, Rama and Dryopithecus were there. And when Australopithecus and um, Australopithecus were there were many different types of horse species on the planet. Currently, if you go to present zero, there are very few, and all of them become to the Equus branch of the phylogeny, mostly. And there are very few regions where horse are actually found in the wild. The horse that we see are domesticated breeds of horse. If you see the wild horse, the stallions, which we call them, no one has seen a wild horse ever in the wild anywhere, or in pictures, documentaries. So at one point of time, okay, so go and try to look at it. At one point of time, there were many different diverged branches of this this Merrick hippus, and around the time when the evolution of humans started. So horse diversification also started around the same time when Ramapithecus and Dryopithecus started diverging and giving rise to the ape branch and the Homo branch. Okay, but before that, horse evolution goes way back than human evolution. 55 million years ago, the Eohippus, from where it all began, they were very tiny. Okay, so if you see, if this scale is 100 centimeter, you will see that it is a very tiny organism, right? Somewhere around 50 centimeter, right?
Yeah.
50 centimeter horse, you cannot imagine. 50 centimeter is our dogs and cats in height. So don't think they are big, you can ride them. No. And can you see their feet structure, the bones? They had the bone number 1 is at the back. Think it as a thumb. Okay. So there is one bone which is at the back, you cannot see it, that is marked as 1. It is a small bone. Okay, just like a thumb. And this is the second, this is the third, fourth, and fifth. Okay. The third digit actually got selected in nature to become more and more prominent. So in Hyracotherium, when it was not or we call it, it was Eohippus, the word eu or eo means true, like from where all begins. You must have read the word eubacteria, right?
Yes,
Or
sir.
eukaryotes. So
Yeah.
eukaryote means true karyotes, eubacteria means the true bacteria. So euhippus or eohippus means from where it began, the first true ancestors were these. Okay, around 55 million years ago. Humans were nowhere around on the planet. This was the time when mammals were just, you know, they were dominating the planet. Reptiles were gone long back. So all different sorts of mammals, especially the non-primates, were diversifying and taking. New species were coming very rapidly during this phase. In last 100 million years ago, the speciation rate was the highest. It always happens after any mass extinction. Remember, we were discussing yesterday about the founder effect, right? So
Yeah.
whenever a significant chunk of life vanishes, there is lots and lots of resources left and very less population to feed on. So what happens? Expansion happens, right? Populations migrate, go to different regions, adapt for that region. New species come up very, very fast because everything is just vacant. You have to just occupy territories from the beginning. So in the last extinction, around 94% of the life vanished. So that 6% left on land, I'm talking about, not about the water, just the land. So the 6% that's left had a lot of territory to capture and conquer and live in, right? So all these things happen. Mammals started dominating, and this Hyracotherium, or it's called the dawn horse. So just like the dawn of planet of apes, so the dawn of the horses started from this particular species, which had 4 active digits in its feet. So no hoofs were there. Okay, they were not hoofed mammals. And after that, when Miohippus came, okay, so these are to scale. You can see the size. So this is very small. This looks more like to me, it looks more like a chinkara deer without their, if I just make this, does it look like a deer to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were more
Yeah, it does.
closely, yeah, looking like, I've not made the horns properly, but if I do, you'll see that, oh, they are like deers, right? How they look like a deer.
Yeah, like gazelles.
Gazelles, yes. So, but they lost one of this. So this red one, this fifth one, they lost. Can you see it became very small here? The first was already small. It's at the back side, so you cannot see it like a thumb. But they also lost the fifth one. Now, how it can happen? It can just happen by mutation. The way we lost the tailbone, correct? It stopped developing. So now they are 3-digit. Their feet have 3 digits. But to make proper hoof, you need just one, right? Bones of the forefoot. You just need one. So from Miohippus to Merychippus, now you see that this fourth and second is prominent, but they also start reducing in size, and the fifth is very small, and the one is very, very small. So this third one was getting more and more prominent. And from Merychippus, when we come to Equus, which is the present day horse, you see that they are changing, right? They are becoming bigger and bigger. Plus, if you see their foot and also the neck, the arrangement is changing. So Merychippus gave rise to two things. The zebras also comes from the Merychippus branch, and also the horses come from Merychippus branch. You can see that they have something which zebras still have, right? Can you see this? They have a pattern, the zigzag, sorry, the black and white strip pattern which zebras have. Okay,
Yes, sir.
zebras are very close to horses if you go 25 million years ago. And then Equus has the fourth and the second. All the other digits are gone, and the third one is the most prominent. Okay, and if you look it from the top, it goes at the back, and it is like this. It has a split, so that's why you put the horseshoe, so that it does not splits or split opens or breaks. And the back foot you can actually see. So if you see horses, let me try to make the hoof. So it's something like this. The hoof looks something like
Now,
this.
what about the wild horses? Even they have to run. So, what happens to their hooves?
Their hoofs are also like that, but they run free, like not with weight on their backs. Correct?
Yeah, but then they might have like stones or some stuff that prick their
It
in between
happens.
the hooves.
Yes, it happens. In wild, it happens. Horse even die because of that, the infection and all. But that's wild, right? In wild, it is bound to happen. Even gazelles and wildebeests are prone to that. But in wild, you cannot do anything, right?
Yeah.
So if you see the horse, there's a small thing at here. This is the bone. This is one bone which is very, very small here in the horse foot. Okay, so this is the modern horse, and we have domesticated it. We have made many different breeds of horses. Some are bred to run faster, some are bred to carry a lot of weight. We also have made cross breeds of horse and donkeys, which are called, what are they called? They are called, what are the cross breeds of mules? They are called mules, right? But because it's a cross species hybrid, it's unfertile. It cannot produce natural offsprings. Okay, is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Fatima? Yep. So for horses also, they had way more species at one time than humans living on the planet together. But you can see that why this branch only went ahead to make Equus, and the other branches died. It always happens, when similar kind of species live in the similar. And now tell me, where do horses live? Where can horses live? Can they live in Amazon rainforest? An organism like horse, can you expect a horse living in Amazon rainforest? Logically, yes or no? Think about it. Can you expect horses in deserts or rainforests?
No, sir.
Why? Amazon
Not
rainforests are
as
full of,
adapted as camels
yeah, what is
or
that adaptation? They run wild, you know, zebras, horses, they cannot live in rainforests or swampy areas or deserts or even mountains, right? So they need grasslands, yes or no?
Yeah.
yes.
So in grasslands, if you see 10, 15 different species of the horse at one time, where this diversification started, this started because there was a lot of scope. But over the time, when population goes beyond a point, there is something called threshold. It's called the carrying capacity. This term is also in your NCRT. You know about the carrying capacity of any organism? It is the maximum number of individuals of that species that can sustain in that given ecological niche, because the resources are limited. You cannot have unlimited zebras in a grassland. Correct? if zebra population goes beyond a limit, it will decline. They will fall. In the next generation, you will see very few zebras. It just falls very steeply. So that also happened. And they also fight, wild horses, giraffes, even gazelles, even zebras, they fight among themselves for resources if it is scarce. So the one which will be more well built, powerful, stronger will survive, and the others will just die, right? Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Okay, so this was about the horse. Just remember these three terms. Eohippus, from where it starts. This I have seen some. So Ames used to ask on horse evolution. I don't think NEET asks about horse evolution because it's not in NCRT. So Eo, Epi, Meso, then Para, and the Equus, the current one. Okay, these are the, and Equus came around Pliocene. So this branch of Equus became prominent around the Pliocene, and remember this is the same time during which Australopithecus were there, right? So the modern horse is very much sharing the timeline with Homo from Australopithecus onwards. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes,
Giving you a
sir.
context.
Yes.
Any doubts? Anything you want to ask?
No, sir.
I'll stop here for some questions if you have questions, and then I'll start with the new chapter. Let me add a page. No questions?
No questions, sir.
Okay, so let's start with diseases, human health and diseases. Let me add this. Okay. Can you all see the screen that I have shared?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, cool. Very good. So now the evolution, the genetics and evolution part is over. If you have any doubts, you can, any one of you finds a doubt, you can also use the group, the WhatsApp group. Just send your doubts there, and I can just, you don't have to wait for the classes to come. If something you want to just clarify, you can just put it on the group. Okay, everyone?
Yes, sir.
So let's begin. There are two things, health and diseases. Let's first define health. Let's start from the basic. What does health means? Sahel, where are you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, what does health means to you? How will you define health for a human? Now everything will be, we will be talking everything from a humanitarian perspective, like a Homo sapien perspective, human health and human diseases. I'll be telling you at times where we can diverge into different other animal or plant systems, but just for knowledge, like you have to just note it down as exceptions or where these parasites can also affect for your entrances, but for your school examination and boards, just stick to the human aspect. So health, let's define health for a human.
So, sir, for me, a good health is when a person is able to actually carry out all the activities, that daily activities, and he's also able uh, uh, to digest, and
Correct.
his metabolism is functioning properly, and he's able to excrete, and he's able to as well walk, talk,
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And why
and
only
all
he?
of his organs in his body are functioning properly.
But why only he and his? Why not she and her?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, just kidding. Okay, I understood. Good. So one thing that Sahel said, and it's very interesting, is that a human should be able to carry out all the normal daily functions, the normal daily routine. So that is one good marker to say that the person is healthy. Many a times, health is just seen as the physical well-being, but it's not just the physical well-being. So health is the overall well-being, and when I say overall well-being, it it has to have a balance of metabolism, it has to have a balance of emotions, it has to have a balance of all your life processes that Sahel mentioned, and also the balance of your uh, humor and social interactions. Okay, so health is not just physical, it is mental, emotional, and social well-being as well. Okay, so write down health. It's defined as the overall well-being of a human. That includes, so the overall well-being includes physical well-being to begin with, and it's different from mental well-being. Okay, and it is different from emotional well-being. Emotional well-being and also social well-being. So what is the difference? Quickly, let's spend a couple of minutes here. I think physical well-being is the one that everyone understands, right? Physical well-being is absence of any physiological disease. That's it. And it also includes, if there's not a disease, it also includes conditions like cramps, pains, fractures, etc. So if you have a fracture, you don't have a disease, but you are not well physically. Correct? Because as yes, good evening, Arpit. Very late.
Sir, I have my physics exam tomorrow. So I'm studying for that.
Okay. Okay. So we are just discussing health. Okay. So as Sahel said, health, the parameter is the person should be able to do the daily chorus or the daily routine properly. So if you have no disease, but you just have a muscle cramp or a fracture, you cannot do all that thing, right? So that also comes under physical well-being. So that we understand absence of diseases or absence of any constraints in our physicality. What is mental well-being, emotional well-being, and social well-being? So these three are not very much taught or very deeply or very thoroughly taught in our syllabus. So we often neglect these things. So what is mental well-being?
So when you're stress free.
Thoughts should be
Yes,
positive.
what thoughts should be positive, but how can you distinguish between mental well-being and emotional well-being? Are they both the same things or they have a difference?
Isn't emotional well-being kind of a part of mental
Mental
well-being?
well-being, yeah, you can say that, but when we say mental well-being, we're talking about the mental status, the health. Body has two things: the physical flesh and bones, the structure, the organs, and the other thing is the manifestation of those organs. For example, you know the difference between brain and mind, right? Brain is an organ. It's a well-defined organ. It has a defined structure, weight, and shape, and number of cells present in it. But what we call as mind is not defined, right? If
Yeah.
I ask you
Yes,
what
sir,
is
it's not.
mind, so what is the difference between a neurologist and a psychologist? The same differences between brain and mind. So mind is the manifest. If you take brain out of a person, like if let's do a thought experiment. If I take heart out of a person, the body will not have, you cannot pump blood, but heart can be replaced by an artificial heart, and the body will work the same. And it has been done. There has been silicon hearts made and also tested. So they just have to beat and pump. So heart does the pumping function. We through cinema and poetries have attributed a lot of other functions to heart, but heart has nothing to do with all of those things. It just pumps blood. Rest everything, our thoughts, emotions, are all generated from this 1 kg organ. It's the manifestation of that organ, a property of that organ, which is called mind. So if I ask you to define mind, you will not be able to define the boundaries. It is not same as brain. So mental well-being is when whatever your your state of mental health is, it should be sound. So in mental disorders, so just like physical disorders like HIV/AIDS is a disorder, it's a physiological disorder. Just like that, schizophrenia or a clinical depression, these are mental disorders. They have a basis, and it's very important to know that they have a physiological basis. You can trace it down in the body. Just because people did not know about them, and physical disorders and physical diseases were studied much before mental disorders or mental diseases were studied. So mental well-being also have physiological reasons. For example, if you talk about schizophrenia, so in schizophrenia, what happens in your body? Anyone knows about schizophrenia?
Yeah, you kind of hallucinate and you think
You
this
kind
is
of
the
hallucinate.
you
Yes, you
hallucinate, yeah,
hallucinate.
essentially.
Yes. And basically, it's one step deeper. You cannot distinguish between reality and imagination.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
schizophrenia, one of the functions. So sometimes you know that you are hallucinating. Those are the kind of hallucinations where you just hear something or see something, and the next moment it's gone, and they're like, oh, I just hallucinated something. I just hallucinated a voice. But in schizophrenia, you do not know that if you're hallucinating. Only others know that. You are living that hallucination. And where is it coming from? You see something, you see a person who's not there, who does not exist. You hear, you talk to the person, and even you talk like it's not like whatever you talk to the person is coming from your own mind. No, you can actually imagine a person and talk to them, even do solve problems with that person which you would not have been able to solve on your own. So that's the severity of that hallucination in schizophrenia. But it has a basis. If you go into the brain and look what's wrong, you can pinpoint certain chemicals whose secretion go up and down, and people start uh, experiencing schizophrenia as a disorder. You understand, everyone?
Yes, sir.
So mental well-being is as severe as physical well-being, and both of them together make the physiology, the organ and the manifestation of the organ. Emotional well-being is about our day-to-day routine, like Arpit said about stress, right? We often use these words very loose. For example, if you must have seen that people saying that today I'm depressed, right? Today
Yeah,
I
it's a
am.
very like abused word.
Yes, it's a very abused word. You should be very, very thoughtful before using such words, because you might be going through a rough patch in your office, but that doesn't mean that you are depressed. You're just the day is rough. It's not a very smooth day for you. But that's where the distinction comes. So all our emotions, all these are emotions: happiness, sadness, feeling depressed or low or stressed or anxious. They are all emotions. For example, anxiety is a normal human emotion. You all feel anxious before your examination. Yes.
Yes, sir.
But it does not mean that you are not well before an examination. Why? Because that baseline level of anxiety is important in your body to secrete adrenaline and epinephrine, right? Adrenaline is also known as epinephrine. You know that? So that hormone keeps you alert and awake so that you do good before any competition or before any exam. You cannot afford to sleep. So your body makes sure you do not sleep by inducing a baseline level of anxiety. But just by getting that anxiousness, do you say that, oh, I have anxiety now? That's not an anxiety attack. That's not a severe anxiety disorder. It becomes a disorder when you cannot control your emotions. So emotional well-being seeps into, as Matthew said, isn't it a part of mental well-being? I will say it is the borderline where if you're not emotionally well-being, you can come back, you can recover on a daily basis. So today I'm not emotionally well because I lost my cell phone, or my cell phone got like someone just took it from me. You understand? So
Yes,
I'll
sir.
not be emotionally well that day, or someone's pet died. They will not be emotionally well for some time, but then they will recover from that sadness. But it seeps into mental well-being when you cannot recover from that on your own. You understand the difference, Matthew?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So your daily baseline fluctuations come into emotional well-being. Even those are taken care to assess your overall well-being, because when someone comes, like in our country, we don't have this culture in like in general in developing countries to appreciate people's daily moods. If someone is sad today, you will expect that person to work the same. Your pet died, so what? You will not come to work. Yeah, he might not come to work because he's emotionally not well, but he will recover, right?
Yes.
So that's the difference. Now, what's social well-being? That is one thing which no student often, it's just a part of this definition. Nowhere I have seen teachers discussing this, spending a few minutes on this. What is social well-being?
When
Any
you
idea?
care
Basically, like,
about
how do
the
you react to
society.
society?
Yes, one at a time. So let me go to, I think Fatima started first. Matthew, is it okay if I go to Fatima first?
No problem. No problem.
Yes, Fatima,
When
what were
you
you
care
saying?
about the society as well.
When you care about the society, or is it the other way around, when the society care about the individuals?
No, I think when you care about the society.
When you care about the society. Okay, Matthew, what's your opinion on this?
Basically, how you get involved in society, or like how you treat society as
How you, yeah, okay.
So
being.
So
like
it's
like
like
how well you are connected with the society, or how
how
you
well you are connected. So basically all of you are trying to say that how good we fit in the society and how happy we are being a part of that society which we live in, right? That's social well-being, correct?
Yeah, you can say so. Yeah.
Yeah, so you all are correct. Social well-being also comes because we as individuals are affected by society, and we also affect the society, right, by our thoughts. For example, like as suppose a person is, a person belongs to the LGBTQ community. I'm giving this example because they are the most discriminated. Or a person belongs to a black community in a white dominated country somewhere in the west. Okay, now that person is physically well, no issues with the organs, nothing, also mentally well, emotionally also he's good, but society is on a regular basis discriminating that person for something that is not his or her fault. You understand? So he will not be able to be emotionally well or mentally well for a very long time under that kind of a discrimination or under that kind of an environment. Does it make sense to you? If a person
Yes,
is
sir.
constantly criticized or discriminated on the basis of something by the society, then that person after some time will start feeling emotional disturbance, which might seep in if it is very long and he cannot bear it, into mental disruptions, and also might affect the physiology or the physical well-being of that person. Does it make sense? So social well-being, how well we respect people in the society, how well we contribute to the constructive ethics of the society, is also a part of a human's overall health, because humans are social. We are social animals, right? We cannot live or survive in isolation. We cannot. Homo sapiens started by starting civilizations, so we have to live with each other where everyone is serving something. So cobblers are giving us shoes, farmers are giving us crops. If you are a person working in an industry, you are giving some kind of, you're taking some raw material, making some finished products, goods or services, and giving it back to society. So we all are a part of a chain, a web, and everyone is important, regardless of caste, creed, religion, gender, sexuality, etc., etc. So that becomes social well-being. Are all the four aspects clear to all of you? So health is
Yes,
clear,
sir.
right? Very good. Now let's come to disease part. What is a disease? Now, for this part onward, we will only focus on physical, because your chapter deals with physical diseases and things only. Mental disorders like schizophrenia we discussed, or emotional disorders like mood swings or sadness or social, we will not deal in this chapter. Okay, but I thought that it's important so that you also understand these three. So disease, what does disease means?
when you're not right. Illness.
Yeah, just split the word. Dis-ease. Yes, Arpit. Now tell, what are you saying?
So when you're not feeling well or you are
You're
suffering
not
from
at ease,
illness,
right? Yes, perfect. Perfect.
uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. The feeling of uneasiness. You're not feeling easy, right? That's disease. Another word is disorder. What does that mean?
There's disorder in the body.
What do you mean by disorder?
There's
That's
something
what
wrong in the body.
you cannot use the same word to explain
There's
the same
something
word, no?
wrong in the body.
What is wrong in the body? How is it different from a disease? So if you understand this, then you will understand why AIDS is called a syndrome, because syndrome is yet to come.
The disorder is a
Disease.
like long-term problem, I guess.
The disorder can be genetically.
Yes, both disease can also be genetic, and oftentimes we use both the words in an interchangeable manner. We call something genetic disease or genetic disorder. It's the same time. It's the same thing mostly. But disorder tells you about the beginning, how it began. So if a disease began with something, for example, tell me a disease that happens because you ate something. Let's say food poisoning.
Food poisoning.
Pneumonia.
Yes. Pneumonia, very good. Now pneumonia happens because the bacteria Streptococcus pneumoniae affects the lung, attacks the lung and multiply and then takes over the lungs and causes infection. That's a disease, a pure disease. Some diseases start with not something external affecting us, just internal disorder in something that was ordered. For example, let's say any lifestyle disease, let's say metabolism. Obesity comes, right? Obesity or diabetes or cholesterol, deposition of cholesterol, which leads to, again, coronary heart diseases or blockage in the veins and arteries. These happen because of disorder. So for example, you were making insulin in your body. Everything was in order. Your pancreas were synthesizing and secreting insulin. Your blood glucose level was being regulated normally. But after a certain age, your pancreas stopped producing insulin effectively. So now you became diabetic. You were not diabetic by birth. You became diabetic after some time in the Middle Ages. You understand? So that disease, the diabetes, started with a disorder in your body. Something was in order, now it is not in order anymore. It's not like a pathogen came from outside and gave you diabetes. You understood the difference, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Okay. So write down uh, factors by which health can be affected. So disease and disorder is clear. Now write down factors that can affect health. Now here we will consider all the factors that can affect physical health. Tell me, what factors can affect health? First, I will start with what
Environmental
Fatima.
conditions.
Yeah, before that, Fatima said something. She used the word genetic, right? We just have studied genetics, the last unit. So let's start with that only. So first factor is genetic disorders, right? If any gene is mutated, or if any gene is disordered, not functioning properly, or we inherit a faulty gene from our parents, for example, in case of we studied color blindness, thalassemia, all these, right? They happen because the kids inherit a faulty gene, a diseased gene from the parents. So those can of course affect the health right from the beginning, right from the birth. So mostly genetic disorders come into categories like deficiencies or defects. Deficiency or defects. Okay. So if either the child is born with some deficiencies in the body or some defects in the body, which they inherit. Write down deficiencies and defects inherited from parents. Yes. Now Matthew, what were you saying? What other factors can affect health?
Environmental conditions.
Environmental conditions, for example, what environmental conditions? Pinpoint some
Pollution.
environmental pollution. Yes, okay. So what can pollution do?
The respiratory disorders like asthma,
It can cause respiratory diseases. Yes,
diseases. Sorry.
or respiratory inflammations or infections, right? You're right,
Yes.
correct. So environmental factors, just the pollution, anything else? So in environmental factors come the food, right, which we eat. If the food,
Yeah, that is
has
sometimes
some
pollen
toxicity,
and all.
yes, but that is allergy. We are not going into allergy, okay? Pollen does not causes diseases, they can cause allergies. Allergies are very different from disease and disorders, okay?
Okay,
So we'll see how pollen, dust, sunlight, all these things, how they can affect health. We will study those in allergy part. Those are different. But food and water, if it is contaminated with a chemical, if the food is not if it has chemicals like pesticides, insecticides not properly washed or something, the water is contaminated, or air, food, water, air, all these can cause infections, inflammations, and diseases in the body. Also the lifestyle, right?
So when you are not like financially stable, so it will like stress or something.
Yes, so economic deficit is also a reason why many people fall sick, but those come under malnutrition. So if you are not economically sound, the more chances are you will be malnourished, right? And because you are malnourished, your immune system will not be properly functioning or good, so you will also be susceptible to many infections. Or if you are poor, you are living in unhygienic conditions, then that again comes in environmental factors and lifestyle like hygiene. So you're right, I'm just connecting your dots to a broader context. It all comes under lifestyle, right? Your economics affects your lifestyle, correct?
Yes.
Like they say, to prevent yourself from COVID, just wear masks and use sanitizers. But a person, a daily wage worker who gets only 50 rupees per day, do you think it can afford a sanitizer or a mask?
No.
no.
Right. So that's there. It seems very easy. Just wear a mask. Even if a mask costs 5 rupees, 5 rupees is not just like they cannot use it just like that. They cannot afford many times sanitizers or medicines even. So hygiene is one. Second is your rest and exercise patterns. Rest and exercise, both more or less, is harmful. We often think that exercise is good for health, but in a limit. You should not overstrain your body and exercise. Many people who are very fit physically die of cardiac arrests while doing the gym. And these, you might, I don't know if you follow news or not. So you know the celebrity Salman Khan, right?
Yeah.
He had a body double. These actors have body doubles who do the stunts for them.
Yeah,
And
stunt doubles.
he stunt doubles, yes. So he just recently, like I think yesterday or day before, he was healthy and he died while gymming. So if you
Salman Khan.
no, not Salman Khan, the body double of Salman Khan. Salman Khan is safe and sound, okay, don't worry. But the body double, I just read the news, so I'm just telling you, it also, too much of strenuous exercise is also harmful for your body. So exercise also should be done in limit. Just hitting the gym.
How
Yes,
is too much of exercise harmful for the body?
exactly, good question.
You're like
Because
overstressing your body, right, in that case. So it will
not
not
just
be
if
healthy.
yes, first it is not healthy for your muscles and organs and your metabolism, because if you are doing a lot of hard work in one day, you also have to feed your body to burn those calories, right?
Yeah.
So you have to increase your diet. Diet does not get increased just in 1 day or 2 day. So anyone who starts a gym, they always advise that, just do it half an hour and focus more on your diet. It's just 20% of exercise and 80% of your diet. Rest, but once you have reached your body maxima, every body is limited by its genetics. Let me tell you, if anyone wants to become, you know, uh, what's his name, the Terminator guy, he's 70
Arnold
plus and he's
Schwarzenegger.
Arnold. So everyone cannot be Arnold because you are also limited by your genetics. So you have to understand your body's limit, work accordingly. Because whenever you do exercise, there are lots of chemicals rush in your body, like adrenaline is lots of adrenaline, serotonin, dopamine is there in the body, which makes your heart beat faster because all your muscles are burning calories like mad, and every cell, every tissue needs more and more glucose and oxygen. So you are putting stress on your heart to pump it faster. You can just observe it. If you play any game like football, let's say Matthew, if you go and play football, do you think your heartbeat is normal? It's 72 beats per minute.
Definitely
No.
not.
No, it goes till 130, 140. In my case, it goes till 170 beats per minute sometimes, which under a normal condition is a sure shot sign of a heart attack. But because my body is in that state, it needs that. So I'm doing good. But if I just keep playing for 5 hours or 6 hours every day, I'm overstretching, right?
Yeah, you
My
are.
heart,
So
my
how
my
do you
heart might, yeah.
how
How
do
do you?
you know how much exercise to do per
You
body?
you feel fatigue, so don't take steroids. So often people who hit the gym and just want to push their limits in the name of pushing the limits, they take steroids, they take chemicals that does not, your body is feeling tired, it's actually tired, but these steroids don't make you feel tired. They just keep pumping and pumping your energy, but your heart might not handle it in a long term. So one day it will just collapse. You understand? So
Sure.
do it naturally. If you're doing any activity, just let me finish. Yes, Arpit. If you're doing any activity normally under normal conditions, you will know when to stop. When you go and start running, you know when to stop, right?
Yeah.
Don't you? But on drugs which are called performance enhancing drugs, which are tested during the doping tests for athletes, you know that doping test.
Yeah. My teacher told about this. Correct.
Yes, any drug that can enhance your performance or which tweaks with your normal physiology is called a doping drug. So these drugs, what they do, your body must be tired and on the verge of a collapse, but these drugs will not let your brain feel that. So you will just keep going. So don't do that. If you're doing that, you are at a risk. Just do anything under natural circumstances. Run, play football. So when I go to play football, I know when to stop. I'm like, okay, now I need to stop. But if I'm playing the same game on drugs and steroids or some performance enhancing drugs, I might know when to stop. Make sense, Fatima?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Arpit, your question. Arpit,
Sir,
yeah.
sir, I forgot.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for this.
Sir, that's why like I usually
Yeah,
interrupt
okay,
people.
okay. I'm so sorry. This is a very beautiful mechanism called transient forgetting. It's a defense mechanism of brain to keep your brain sane. It's important to forget certain things. Okay, if it comes back to you, please ask. Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay, so rest and exercise both has to be in a limit. Too much of rest makes you lethargic. Too less of a rest makes you exhausted. Same goes with exercise. Okay, same goes with sleep. There's a difference between sleep and rest. I hope you know that. So sleep is a different state of body. So sleep is also very, very important. And sleep deficient people also, their health is affected, both physical and mental. Okay, so all these comes under your lifestyle. What kind of eating habits you have. Okay, even our even our religious textbooks have figured all these things out. How many, I don't know how many of you have know about the seven sins mentioned in Bible. One of that seven sins that human should not commit. One of that sin is gluttony. Gluttony is eating without a purpose. and without hunger. That's a sin. Okay, so you should only eat when you are hungry or when your body needs that. Don't keep chewing all the day without your body requiring food. Okay,
Yes, sir.
and what else? You are every one of you is missing a very important thing: environmental factors, lifestyle, genetic disorders, and the most important thing that affects physical health is COVID. How is COVID happening?
Virus.
Infections. Let me put all the pathogens together, right? Can I say infections together?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Any
sir.
infection,
Yes.
bacterial, viral, fungal, protozoa, and we will be studying this majorly in this chapter. Okay, infections are a major cause of health deteriorating, and this can happen to everyone at any given age. And infections are of two types: one is chronic and the other is acute. You know the difference between acute and chronic disorders? The same goes for infection disease disorders, acute and chronic. So we would like to clear these terms here only. What do we mean by chronic and acute? In mathematics, you have studied acute angle. What is the acute
So
angle?
So less
chronic
than
would be very
50.
severe.
Yeah, we
Acute
often
is more like
think.
mild.
So I also had this misconception that Sahel had, that chronic, the word chronic sounds like very severe, and acute is like, it's a cute disease, not very serious. Actually, it's opposite, Sahel. I'll tell you how. Yes, Matthew, what were you saying? Complete.
Yeah, I was saying acute means mild, but then after that you said
Ah.
that's the opposite.
Very good, very good. Okay, anyone else? Both of these terms do not give a very right context of severity. Okay, chronic or acute, both can be very severe or both can be mild, but it depends on the duration of that infection, that disease or disorder in the body. Mostly acute diseases are more severe because they end up killing the person. So acute means short, for a short duration, short lasting. Any infection, if it is acute, it is a short lasting infection. It cannot last more than 2 weeks. Now what does it mean? It means that either after 2 weeks the infection will go or the person will die.
Person will go.
Exactly. So which one do you think is more? And about chronic is long lasting. For example, diabetes is a chronic disease. So sometimes people can just live for 30-40 years with diabetes, right? At the end, when their body is weak, they might die of complications of diabetes only, but it has the potential of lasting very long. So it's a chronic disease or a chronic disorder or a chronic infection. Okay, everyone understands?
Yes, sir.
So which do you think is
Yes.
more severe?
Acute.
Acute.
Acute ones, because the body do not get enough time to deal with acute infections and acute disorders. Mostly if the infection is not very strong, the body will deal with it. For example, viral fevers are acute infections. Every season you get flu, right? Viral flu, or you get fungal infections, some or the other kind of. But you go to the doctor will give you antibiotics. Now antibiotics do not help in viral fever, but they help your immune system to be protected from one side, because you already know there is a virus which has attacked your body and we don't have very good antivirals. That's a truth. So the doctors just make sure that you are already low fighting with viruses. Now your body should not have a overriding bacterial infection also, because this is a monsoon season or a wet season and you are prone to infection. So they give you antibiotics not to cure viral fever, but to protect you against bacterial infections which can override. So what happens to viral fever? They just do symptomatic treatments. They give you paracetamol and other things to keep your temperature down, and your body fights with that viral infection on its own. but it never lasts more than 7 days, right? 3, 5 to 7 days at max.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an acute infection that happened and your body dealt with it. But other kind of infections like pneumonia or hepatitis, they can be chronic. Their symptoms and their what do you say, effects can be chronic. Even for COVID, scientists are trying to figure out there's something called the long COVID effect. So we thought that COVID is just an acute infection that either will kill the person or will get treated, but that does not look like so. COVID might have very well have long effects. Okay, that's called long COVID disease or long COVID effects that are still studied because it's not very long since COVID started. So only after in the next 5 or 10 years we will get to know what does COVID does in a long term to people who have had COVID and recovered. Okay, they might not be doing very good after recovery, though it seems like they have recovered, but there might be some long-term issues associated. HIV/AIDS is a very chronic disorder, chronic disease, because I'll tell you why when we will study HIV/AIDS. But just know that sometimes people can be HIV positive but still not get any symptom of the disease. So it's chronic. Okay, it does not kill very fast. So these two terms are clear. So from now onwards, whenever I use the word chronic or acute, you will understand, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very well. Now, diseases can be of two types. What broader two types? What broader two types of diseases are there?
Infectious and non-infectious.
Perfect. What do we mean by infectious and
So that
non-infectious?
spread by various means.
And what are non-infectious?
That do not spread.
Okay. So how do non-infectious diseases happen then?
Sir, what?
It must. How do non-infectious diseases happen or occur in a person if they are not spreading?
Genetics.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
one very good answer is genetics. Other is your lifestyle, like obesity is a non-infectious disorder, right? You cannot just pass on obesity to a person you have met. Cardiac arrest for that matter, cancer also. Okay, infectious, write down. You already know it, but just write it down for your exams purpose. Diseases are broadly grouped into infectious and non-infectious categories. Infectious are those diseases which can be easily transmitted from an infected person to a healthy person. Okay. And infectious diseases are very, very common. Okay. For example, some infectious diseases which are not very lethal is your, which is a
Common
which
cold.
is common cold, flu. Yes, your seasonal flu, common cold. They are infectious because you can spread it to other people through the respiratory droplets. COVID also spreads through that mode. It's a respiratory disorder. Even TB, tuberculosis, can spread through sputum and saliva. HIV or AIDS is the disease. HIV is the name of the virus. AIDS is also a infectious disease. AIDS is a fatal infectious disease. People die in AIDS. It just depends when they will die, but they do die. They can never recover, or AIDS can never be cured. As per now, we never know what we can do in future, but we have not figured out how to deal with the HIV virus. I'll tell you why when we will study AIDS. Okay, non-infectious, again, which cannot be transmitted from one infected person to another. So the reason can be genetic, lifestyle based, any disorder that happened, and any failure of an organ, etc., etc. So can you name any non-lethal non-infectious disease and a lethal infectious disease?
So can you repeat the question?
Just an example, a non-lethal infectious disease and a lethal infectious disease. Sorry, a non-lethal non-infectious disease and a lethal non-infectious disease.
Sir, cancer is a non-infectious but lethal.
Yes, okay. Cancer is lethal but non-infectious. And a non-lethal non-infectious? Come on. There are many diseases with which people live and they don't die because of that.
Diabetes.
To some
Color
extent.
blindness.
Exactly. Beautiful. 2 points to House Gryffindor. These are the moments where I think. Anyone here is a Harry Potter fan? No, no one.
I am a fan, sir.
Sahel, let's wait. Okay, have you sorted yourself into a house?
Yeah, Gryffindor. But I feel like I'm still
You
Slytherin sometimes.
why every Gryffindor feels like they are a, I think it's our alter ego. I'm also a Gryffindor, but I always feel like I fit well in the Hufflepuff. I don't know why, but I never fit into Slytherin. Probably you might. Okay, anyways. But Fatima, very good answer. Color blindness is not infectious and also not lethal. Very good. Okay, so let's start with some common diseases. I'll be telling you about the most asked diseases which in your entrances and in your exams, and about their pathogens. So for every disease that we are going to study, we have to study certain points. So let's start with common human diseases. So for all the diseases, we have to study the causative agent, the mode of spread, the symptoms, and if possible, if there is any kind of a treatment or a drug associated to cure it, that. Okay, these 4 things we have to study for every disease. So I'll give you, let's do one today, 1 or 2 today, and I'll give you some for the homework. Let's take the most difficult ones. Typhoid is one, very common. You've heard of typhoid, people?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
What is typhoid? What do you know about typhoid? And let's start with what causes it. So let's categorize it on the basis of, okay, this is a better option to do. I did it in the last batch.
Excuse
Okay,
me,
so
sir. I have to leave.
yes, Fatima. Okay, so you have to leave now. Okay, anyways, it's 10 minutes left. So please read some diseases, okay? The common diseases
Yeah, I
portion
will
from
send the
NCERT.
recording. I will see the recording.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so let's first talk about bacterial diseases, which are caused by bacteria. Let's go pathogen wise. It's better, right? For segregating. So in bacterial, I'm first taking typhoid. Now you know it is a bacteria that causes typhoid. But you know which bacteria causes typhoid?
Salmonella typhi.
Yes, Salmonella typhimurium. So Salmonella typhi causes typhoid. And what happens in typhoid? So this is a causative agent. And what happens? What kind of disease is this?
So bacterial.
Of course, but what kind means what it does to the body. So you must know that it causes fever. Typhoid fever is one thing we hear very
Essentially fever.
commonly. Yes. So what happens is this Salmonella typhi, it enters in the small intestine. Okay. So the region where it affects or attacks is the small intestine. So it attacks the small intestine lining, and any pathogen that causes damage to the intestine or the stomach How do you think it enters there?
Through food.
Through
Or
food.
like
There's only one way,
water.
right? Through food or water. So it attacks the small intestine and causes, it multiplies in the number, attacks the lining and causes perforation. It starts killing the cells of the small intestine, because of which there are small pores, holes that gets developed in the small intestine and under severe conditions that called intestinal perforation. Okay, so you should know this. It causes intestinal perforation, and as a result the person can die. Okay, it is fatal in severe conditions if not treated properly. Okay, if severe. But now we can cure typhoid, like people recover from typhoid, they don't die very easily because we can get rid of this bacteria. How to get rid of this bacteria?
Antibiotics.
Yes, of course, antibiotics. So and on what are the symptoms? So this is what causes it and how it happens. But what are the symptoms? You have to study the symptoms also.
So
I
fever,
think, see, if you just study smartly, if you just know the pathogen and how it affects the body, you can guess symptoms. Okay, good enough to get marks in the boards. You don't have to remember everything. So if it is attacking the small intestine, yes, what kind of symptoms? First is fever. Fever is a very general symptom in any infection, any systemic infection. If the infection, let's say, if there is an infection which is only in one tissue, one particular tissue like leg or hand, like say infection due to a fungal infection in your fingers, it happens, right? During on the nails, sometimes on the nails and in the folds, like behind the ears, neck, your elbows, around these regions are more prone to fungal infections, but it does not causes a full-fledged fever in the body because it's still localized to a particular region. You understand, everyone? Yes or no?
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Anything that affects the body, the system from inside, causes fever. Fever is a response. It's a inflammatory response of the body to any infection if it is systemic. Fever is very high in case of typhoid. It's very high fever. And yes, Arpit, you were guessing some symptoms or you were telling some symptoms.
Sir, stomach ache.
Stomach ache, yes. Not just ache, it's very severe pain. Stomach pain, which is basically the pain from the intestine, but we call it stomach pain because we feel it in the abdomen region. And because of this, what can happen? If your intestines are affected, you can either have constipation or diarrhea, both. In case of typhoid, generally because of fever. When fever is there, uh, constipation also happens. Body becomes weak, and these bowel movements, the peristaltic movements, does not happen. So we cannot excrete properly. You know, Sahel started in the beginning by saying that health will be measured by if the person can metabolize and excrete properly, right, Sahel?
Right,
So
sir.
you were actually, yes, you were actually talking about this symptom that if you cannot excrete properly, it means something is wrong in your body. That happens. Oh, Fatima's back. Fatima, you're back? You're not going?
I'm in the car. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, hats off to your dedication. Good. So head and loss of appetite. You will not like to eat because your intestines are affected. Makes sense, right? Everything is connected. Your intestines are getting damaged, so the body will not feel like putting things in the body, which because they will go through intestine, cause more problem and pain. So you will lose your appetite. Because of this, you will have constipation and weakness. So if you are not eating, you have constipation, it will obviously cause weakness. So these are some symptoms which make sense. Okay, you don't have to remember it. And rest. Next, how do we diagnose for diseases? How do we diagnose typhoid?
The dial test.
Okay, what is Vidal test? It's a very bookish term, Vidal test. What is it? What are we doing in Vidal test? Anyone knows Vidal test? Because the question will not be, it can be, what is the test for typhoid? And you will say Vidal test, you will get full marks. But if they ask, on what principle is Vidal test based? So it is basically a kind of antibody antigen test. So write down Vidal test. It's named after the person Vidal, and it's a kind of antibody antigen binding test. So this bacteria, any bacteria, when it causes infection, it actually secretes toxins, right? You understand? Bacteria secretes toxins because they are living cells. These toxins are basically what? Proteins. Yes or no?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So if you know that this bacteria, typhimurium, Salmonella typhi, secretes this toxin, and if you want to make sure that this fever is because of um, typhoid, then you just make an antibody against the proteins of the bacteria typhi, take sample, do this test. If you find antibody reaction, which means that those proteins are present in your sample, and which confirms that your body is infected by typhi and you have typhoid. Make sense? Simple?
So can you explain this again?
Yes. So bacteria produce toxins, which are basically protein molecules. Okay. And
Yes, sir.
I will be teaching you immune system, okay, in this chapter, which will make things more clear. But just know right now that we can make antibodies that bind to these proteins because they are antigens. They are foreign particles coming into our system to affect our system. So our body have a defense mechanism called antibodies. Antibodies can bind to these toxins, antigens, which are basically proteins. Antibodies themselves are proteins. So protein binding happens. This is how we also test for blood groups. Have you any one of you have undergone a blood group testing, or you have done it in your school
Yes.
as a practical?
Yes,
So
sir,
what
yeah.
do they do? They ask you to put 3-4 drops on a slide, then put antibody A, antibody B, and then Rh antibody, right? If you see agglutination, which means that antigen is present in your blood. So if you see clumping happening in the A, which means you are A positive, you have the A antigen. If it also happens in the B, it means you are AB. If it does not happen in the A and happen in the B, you are B. Positive or negative comes from the Rh. If binding happens in the Rh wala drop, it's like you are AB positive. So it's again antibody and antigen binding test. So what we are doing in Vidal test is we are finding if the proteins, the antigen secreted by the typhi bacteria is present in our system or not. Okay, Fatima?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So it's an antibody antigen binding test which can confirm the presence of typhi and hence confirm that if we are going through typhoid. Okay. Okay, so I'll stop here today. Yes, Arpit, please ask.
Sir, I was asking, like, sir, why does this disease last for a very long time?
Yes, because sometimes the symptoms, it takes, body becomes weak, and if people don't die, then typhoid means its effect can last for a month. You take time to recover. Your body becomes so weak during the disease that it's not the disease that lasts, it's the recovery phase that is longer. There is a difference. So you are discharged from the hospital the moment your antibody tests, Vidal tests, tell you that the level of toxin in your body is low, below a threshold. Now you are healthy. which means your body got rid of the infection. You are no longer suffering from typhoid, but you are still very weak. You will not be able to walk, you will not be able to eat. It will take you time to recover from that damage that has happened. So more than the disease, it's the effects that last. You understand? Not the disease.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And it happens for many, almost every, like even for COVID infections, people get weaker, and if they recover, it takes time for them to properly recover. It's not like they're diseased anymore. Okay. Okay, so I'll stop here, and I'm giving you homework to go and look for pneumonia and some other bacterial diseases. Like, so write down what you have to look for yourself. Pneumonia. Also look for diphtheria. And dysentery. This will help you later on in the chapter. And plague. Okay, bubonic plague, which is caused by the rats. But figure out what causes plague, which is the causative agent. Rat is the vector, not the causative agent. So these 4 are your homework. Okay, these are all bacterial diseases. Okay, everyone, any questions, anything you want to ask?
No, sir.
Okay, then I'll see you in the next class.